Imagine your team is the most performant, curious, and innovative in the whole organization. But how do we get there? With trials and failures and learnings from failures. In this session, I will tell you how instilling growth mindset in your team, in your organization, will help you foster continuous learning, curiosity, and innovative culture in your team. But before we start, I want you to do a bit of a self-assessment and self-reflection. I want each of you to look inside yourself and answer honestly what kind of beliefs you have in your minds on the following topics. Failure is the limit of my abilities. Failure is opportunity to grow. Just note them down in your head, in your mind. We'll talk about this later. I'm either good at it or I'm not. I can learn to do anything I want. I don't like to be challenged. Challenges help me grow. I'm jealous of the success of others. That's my favorite one. I'm inspired by the success of others. And then I stick to proven methods, or I like to try new things. So, how many of you are on the right-hand side of this brain behind me? Okay, raise your hand, okay, thanks. And how many of you are on the left-hand side of the brain? Okay, excellent. So now you have a picture for yourself. How many beliefs you have from fixed mindset or from growth mindset? But let's dig a bit in the theory of this buzzword, growth mindset. I was talking with Radu before the session. He said, what are you talking about? What's that growth mindset? So I like to share with you what's growth mindset. Carol Dweck, professor of psychology in Stanford University, dedicated her scientific career on evolving and learning how children learn. And based on her observation and through proven scientific methods, she identified that children and respectively adult individuals learn in different way, and she carved this theory of fixed and growth mindset. Growth mindset believes that intelligence can be developed, and fixed mindset believes that intelligence is static, and therefore people with fixed mindset, they have desire to look smart. Now, do I have a desire to look smart at the moment in front of you? Of course, yes. That's my dream for today. However, I just want to mention, based on the diagram that we just looked before, that growth mindset is something, it's a continuum. It's not something that is carved in stone. We may have growth mindsets depending on different situations in our life, different occasions, different states of our life. However, let's explore the theory. So these people with fixed mindsets desire to look smart, and therefore they avoid challenges. They give up easily because they don't want to fail. They are very afraid of failing. They see effort as fruitless due to the very same reason, right? And they ignore useful negative feedback. I cannot blame them. It's quite painful to receive negative feedback and learn something out of it, right? And feel threatened by the success of others. On the contrary, people with growth mindset, their desire is to learn from every situation, from everything that happens in their life. They want to learn and extract the learning out of it. This is why they embrace challenges. They persist in the face of setbacks, which is quite amazing thing, because if they fail, they do not give up. They just stand and continue. They see effort as part to mastery, because they believe that it's not important to look smart, but it's important to get better, to be a better version of yourself to tomorrow compared to today. And they learn from criticism, quite powerful skill, as I said. And they find lessons and inspirations in the success of others. So this is in a nutshell the theory of growth mindset. And it leads to some attributes that I want to discuss with you. First of all, learning from failure. Second, believe in self. It happens very naturally, because people with growth mindset, if you manage to instill growth mindset in yourself, you believe that with enough effort you will be getting better, and that's enough. And then positivity that comes naturally out of it, not by itself. Resilience, they do not give up in the face of setbacks, they continue, they stand up and they continue. Excitement by challenges. Some of the pupils, the students that Karol Dweck was examining and exploring said, oh, I like challenges when they get a very hard task in their math lesson, for example. And then curiosity, the famous skill through the path to the path of innovation. So if we want to build innovative teams in organization, curiosity is a fundamental cornerstone of it. And now, having a glimpse, how do you see it in terms of growth mindset and fixed mindset beliefs? What's the theory behind growth mindset? What are the attributes? Let's explore what growth mindset is not, so we are absolutely sure we get proper understanding. You either have a growth mindset or you don't. That's false. Neuroscience proves the opposite. I'll talk a bit about neuroscience later on, and I'll share with you the theory behind. You can shift from fixed to growth mindset. It's a continuum. It's something that can be developed independent on where you stand in terms of age, beliefs, etc. Then the second thing is growth mindset is about being positive. Again, false. Positivity comes as a result of growth mindset. However, being positive, it's not sufficient enough to have a growth mindset by itself. Then, praise builds growth mindset. As we will be talking about building teams and organizations with growth mindset, false. It depends on what you're praising. It's not sufficient enough only to say, hey, great job. Just remember that phrase and we'll come to it later on. You need to praise the proper behaviors and habits if you want to build growth mindset. And then, anyone can do anything. Can anyone do anything? Can I be an astronaut, a pilot of an airplane? Not, I'm short-sighted. That's the thing. So, not anyone can do anything. However, anyone can reach the limits of their abilities. And that's the beauty of it, because each one of us has certain potential. And if we have fixed mindset in our behavior, encarved in our beliefs, etc., we cannot reach our full potential. Every one of us is different. Every one of us is good in different things. However, growth mindset allows you to reach the full potential of yourself, who you are. And now, how to use this in organization, in business. Karol Dweck continued her research. She started from students, pupil, etc. But then she realized that, well, I'm talking on her behalf. I haven't spoke with her, but anyway, it was a realization of, these small children, they become adult individuals, and they enter the workforce. They enter the companies. They start businesses. They start startups. They do some jobs in our society. So she realized, and she continued her scientific work in terms of organizational behavior. And this is where growth mindset steps into the business domain. And there is something I want to share with you. First of all, when I started exploring the topic, I was very curious to dig into something different from technology and business. We know very well technology and business. All of us are working for IT companies, at least the majority of us. We know business, we know technology. But when I decided to continue my Executive MBA and do my dissertation, I very much wanted to do something in terms of neuroscience because it was an unexplored domain for myself, and because what we are doing in technology and business, we are doing it from the persons who we are and from the beings we are, right? So there is one tool in our mind. It's the brain, the human brain. Do you know how that the human brain, I was fascinated to learn that the human brain hardly evolved in the last 300,000 of years. And I was absolutely stunned by this. Can you imagine that each one of you who is sitting here today is functioning in our society, is doing innovations, at least until AI replaces, is doing business, is coding, is doing programming with the very same, almost the very same tool that we had, our human brain, 300,000 years ago. So, How neuroscience meets growth mindset? Any one of you heard the term neuroplasticity? Oh, cool, okay, very nice. So, neuroplasticity is a very interesting thing, and it helps us change our mindset, because what we have in our brains, it's called neuropaths. The neuropaths are paths of wired neurons, and those neuropaths are determining the way how each of us is reacting on certain situation. The interesting part is that our neuropaths are built in very early, small age, and they remain the same, and they began to be imprinted in us, and our habits and our reactions and our beliefs continue to be the same, and they go on the subconscious level, because our brain is it's a tool who don't want to spend energy. So neuroplasticity comes in the game to say anyone can reshape, change their neuropaths. So if I have one neuropath carved in my brain, giving a reaction for me, for example, when the door is opened, and I was like, okay, I'm able to change it. This is what neuroplasticity said. I can rewire it. And stepping on this neuroplasticity, we can say everyone can change their mindset. Everyone can shift from fixed to growth mindset, and vice versa, if you like. And it's in us. It's independent on age. Maybe in smaller age, it's a bit easier, but science proved that everyone can change their pathways. And then the next thing I want to discuss in terms of neuroscience and growth mindset are our brain threat and reward systems. This is also some amazing quality that we have in our brain. Again, the main purpose of our brain is, do you know what? Any guesses? Okay, no guesses. Our brain, it's not to innovate, it's not to write code, it's not to write this email, it's not to give this presentation, it's to take care of our survival. This is what our brain does on the very, very first stage. So, for example, when I receive an email, when I enter a meeting, when I receive a bug, when I receive escalation, when the door is opened, my brain activates itself and judges the situation. Is it a threat or it's a reward for me? And based on this judgment that happens extremely fast, I'm reacting. If I judge the situation as a threat, while we were doing dry runs, where is the other Radu? Radu was looking at me like this. And I said, okay, Radu doesn't like this presentation. Maybe he doesn't understand it. I don't know what's happening. So it's a threat for me, right? If it's a threat, my brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, imagine for a second a team who is receiving escalation. What happens to the members of this team? They judge the situation. Is it a threat or a reward? Most likely it's a threat, right? And they do fight. They fight back. This is stupid. It's not for my team. I will hand it over, etc. Flight. Can someone else do this? I will hand it over to other team. Freeze. Just stop and do nothing and, stand like this. Now, can you imagine now one team of such people, if they perceive something as a threat, how they can innovate? Can they innovate? Can they perform? Can they be efficient? No way, right? Let's look at the reward response now. The reward, and by the way, the threat is activating a part of your brain called amygdala. Remember this part. It's the very ancient part of our brain who is exactly responsible of, our survival. We need to survive. This is the amygdala story. But when we perceive something as a reward, Radu smiled at some point at this dry run, which was quite relieving. Thank you, Radu, for smiling now as well. So it's a reward. Okay, he understands what I'm talking, right? And Mike is smiling. Thank you, Mike, for smiling. So if we perceive this as a reward, another part of our brain is being activated. It burns a bit more energy. It's called the prefrontal cortex. It's in front of our brain. And the prefrontal cortex is the beautiful part of our brain that is responsible for creative thinking, new ideas, learning from everything maybe. And all the processes that make us grow as human beings, And not only, that makes us innovate. And you know what science said? Growth mindset perceives change as a reward. So if you instill growth mindset in your team, in yourself, when something around you is changing, you will most likely perceive it as a reward. I'm giving you an example with, I don't know, organizational change. We have been discussing that in our organization there is a constant reorganization change. Usually when we talk about organizational change, if we have a brains of growth mindset in our organization, they will say, let's see, okay, it's changing. Let's see what's in for me. How can I get something nicer? How can I achieve better results, right? They will be very much away from this fight, flight, and freeze. And most likely, they will get the great result, the greatest possible result out of this situation. So this is about the neuroscience and organizational behavior. Now let's see who is doing that. Anyone from Microsoft here? Okay. Do you know, I'm not asking you, Mike, do you know who this guy is? Do you know him? Yes? Can you raise your hand if you know who that is? Okay. Well, this is Satya Nadella, and he became a CEO of Microsoft in 2014. And when he became a CEO of Microsoft in 2014, today it's 2024, right? It's 10 years ago. And Mike, forgive me if I'm mistaking something, just you'll correct me, but when he became a CEO of Microsoft, he took one siloed company that it was on the footstep of becoming a legacy. And now, the first thing that he did was a cultural change in this company. And he based his cultural change on growth mindset. He said, we will be evolving from know-it-all to learn-it-all. And this is how he started. He started with himself, then with his leadership team, that he instilled growth mindset qualities across his teams, organizations, and imprinted it in the culture of Microsoft. And as I'm from SAP, I should mention that Satya is talking with our CEO regularly, and our board members are also on the face of growth mindset. And now Microsoft is extremely successful in terms of financial results, employee engagement, market value, everything, right? Today. I'm a Mac user, and I very much enjoy my Microsoft Teams. I should say that. It's an advertisement, I know. And yeah, this is an example that in the business, the big technology companies are transforming their cultures based on growth mindset. Who else do this? Can you guess? This one. He sends ships on Mars. He does a lot. He innovates like hell. And I should mention that this is only to do with his business things. I'm not jumping into political discussions in the United States, please. And do you know what he said? Try, fail, learn from failure. Try harder again, resilience. This is what he believes, and this is how he does his business, and this is how he drives his innovation. But there are more. Google, for example, they decided to shift completely their hiring process. They say, we no longer hire unicorns in our Google organization. We hire people that would like to learn, to grow, and to change, and are adaptive to change. This is what Deloitte did as well. So it's all over the business, and it has huge business impact, especially in IT organizations. Now, in terms of numbers, I would say that growth mindset in organization leads to 50% higher productivity, 74% higher engagement, 74% less stress. Can you link it to the reward system? People feel less stressed. And then it leads to fulfillment, of course, resilience, continuous learning in these organizations, retention. People stay because they are not stressed, they like to innovate, they learn, and they innovate, of course. And they have this aspect of sustaining progress, not only do a big jump and then stop, but climbing, becoming better and better in what you're doing. Now, if I have convinced you how growth mindset helps organization, let's see how every one of you, can help instilling growth mindset in your team, being a multiplier, being a leader. How many managers we have in the room, by the way? Okay, cool. How many developers? Cool. Great. So all of you can do something to instill growth mindset, and guess what? Surprise. Begin with yourself. Just take an honest look and understand for yourself, and this is what we did in the very beginning of our session, right? Do you have fixed or growth mindset? Just examine where do you stand in terms of fixed and growth mindset. On top of beliefs that we have been exploring, I put a couple of examples. How can you judge it in terms of business and in terms of your work in your team? Do you run a process like you always did? Do you accept skill limitations in your part of the game? And of course, do you hire team members based on their achievements or based on their potential, especially for the ones who are hiring people? And then lead with growth mindset. If you're a developer, you can also lead. There are informal leaders in the team, so it's not necessary to be a manager. But how can you lead with growth mindset? Again, 3 examples, and you will get a handout if you want to apply it. Discuss problems from different perspectives. Don't stick to the silos. Then speak to your own challenges and risks openly. By the way, this is what Satya does. He is standing in his all-hands meeting with Microsoft, and he's saying, I did a mistake. I judged mistakenly this, and this is what we will do to change it. This is what our board members are doing as well at SAP, and I'm gladly noticing this behavior. They speak openly to their own failures and challenges. And then focus on the development potential on your team, and there are much more. I just don't have time for them. And then, if we want to carve it as a pathway, we extracted this awareness, adoption, advocacy pathway. First of all, build awareness in your team, create common understanding, because anyone should recognize what growth mindset it is and what not in order to begin transformation. Then, the adoption can happen in different directions. Some companies are shifting the way they are giving feedback. The other companies are shifting the way how they praise people. I will talk a bit about praise people later on. They're shifting their interview questions, etc. In the terms of team, you can praise effort and development instead of praising the results only, encourage smart risk-taking, learning from failure. All these components can lead you to instilling growth mindset in your team. And then not to forget advocacy. Become a role model. Just live the habits of growth mindset and show it to everyone, and just, stick to it. Nurture growth mindset behavior around you. And now, let's go to some practical examples. How can we coach for growth mindset? By asking the right questions. Do you know that individuals with growth mindset tend to set goals for themselves that are stretch goals, a bit higher than what they can achieve, because they don't care to be excellent and smart. They care to put something in front of them that will help them having progress, become better, right? And individuals with fixed mindset, you can guess that they're setting goals with, up to the limit of their abilities. So it's important, the goal settings, to be with growth mindset, to set a stretch goals for yourself, for your team members, for your team, if you say so, and evaluate them with coaching. What do you need to learn about these goals so you can complete it? What can you learn from your peer, your opponent, so you can complete this goal, etc. There is a number of coaching questions. The other thing is there is something called situational leadership, support shifting from fixed to growth mindset. It should happen daily. It should happen in yourself, for your peers, for your teammates. But yeah, you need to ask those questions and help people shift, because it's, as we said, it's a habit. For example, what are some different strategies you could have used? And then on the praising, remember this great job that we started with? Praising for growth mindset. This doesn't work. We should praise for the behaviors, and this is why we should praise in a sense of, I like the way you tried different strategies. You didn't give up until you achieved your goal. So it's resilience, it's learning from failure, it's the effort that is put in this, not only the goal itself. And I just want to add a small glimpse to this. Neuroscience says that a positive feedback for yourself, it's equally perceived as a reward, as a monetary reward. So praise is quite powerful too. Just use it with attention. Now, we are at the end of our session, and we learned, first of all, each one of you is standing in terms of fixed or growth mindset, what growth mindset is, Rado. what are the main ingredients of growth mindset? How can you instill it in your team? What are the benefits for organizations? And if there is one thing you should remember from this session is the power of yet. Are you not smart enough to solve it, or have you just not solved it yet? Just add this small word to your vocabulary and see what will happen to your life and to your mindset. And this is the word before and after you made a mistake. So feel free, give it a try, explore it, and learn from failure. Thank you.